Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And thanks for inviting me to be here, the first keynote speaker. It's quite an honor for me to be here. And, speaking as a representative of the automotive industry here on the West Coast is not an easy task, because a lot of people here on the West Coast are basically saying that the time of the auto industry is over. We are going to be disrupted, and it's just a matter of time. I have now 20 minutes to convince you that this will not happen, at least not for the BMW Group. I can't speak for the rest. I think you will see, hopefully, in the next 20 minutes that we took this by heart as a chance, this whole transformation process, and not as a threat. And I think if you start to look at this transformation as an opportunity, you also come to different solutions. And I think the auto industry had in his history already gone through a major transformation like this. If you just think back how everything started, here to my right, from yours to the left, this was the first carriage where a combustion engine was integrated. And then on the other side, the first purpose-built car with 4 equal size wheels, with the center of gravity a little bit lower, and let's say with a working space for the driver. This is mainly how we still build cars today. So this was a major transformation back then, and we believe that the digitalization we are seeing right now, the different kind of engine concepts coming to the markets over the next year, will make this era where we see a bigger revolution as we ever have seen in the automotive industry. Now, we on our side, we are not going to be somebody watching this process. No, we want to create it. We strongly believe if you are not able to create your own mobility environment, you are not going to be able to survive. And this is why we are trying it our own way. And I will explain you now how this looks like. Here behind me, and it's really big. I think I haven't seen a big screen like this yet. Here behind me, you see different scenarios. And from starting the OEM traditional over smart car, digital service, car as a service, and mobility as a service, all buzzwords which you probably have heard already a lot. The big question is, what do they really mean, and how do you get a system implemented? And this transformation process will be, of course, geographically and from city to city probably different. So there is not a linear development. In some cities, you have immediately car as a service. In others, it will take probably a little bit longer. I will show you now all the 4 models, what we are doing to become a major player in these areas. First of all, I am going to show you where our strengths are, and then I'm showing you at the end also where I would say we need to have a steep learning curve as well. Let me start with our strengths. Production. As long as we are not beaming people around, we are going to need hardware to be driven from A to B in a large quantity around the world. And we, over the last year, we really professionalized how to build with complex hardware in a lot of quantity. We have currently in the BMW Group 31 production sites in 14 countries around the world. So we know how to scale a model. And I think if you look forward for a BMW Group in the next 2 years, we are going to launch 40 new models in only 2 years. This is the biggest product rollout in the history of our company. And I think this is a major strength where a lot of companies who started now in this sector are starting to realize that scaling a car production is not as easy as scaling probably a smartphone. The second area where we see a lot of strengths on our side is the service network. We have about 4,200 service stations around the world. That means almost in every corner of this planet, we can offer to our customer the right service to keep their product on the road safely and at the newest standard. The third part I wanted to mention is on our strength side is safety. We think that if we move now into the autonomous world, safety becomes even more important than it ever was before. Because at the end of the day, we all are going to trust our lives to a robot driving us around. So I really ask yourself, whom would you trust more with your life? Somebody who just built the first car in the history, or somebody who has a proven record of building very complex, very safe hardware? So this will be a major question, I think, when it comes to autonomous driving. A second thing is not only the safety of the hardware, but also the safety of data. If we want to have an autonomous system on the street, I think the safety of the hardware and the safety of data are becoming an increasingly important part of becoming a big player in this area or not. So we would say here in our favor, crash test, tick in the box, data security, tick in the box, and Vince and Larry are saying we are no dummies. The last point on our strength side I wanted to mention here is definitely the motion control of this complex hardware, or maybe I should better say the emotional hardware. I think there is no other car company in the world who has this kind of characteristic when it comes to emotional driving. And if some people think that when we get autonomous driving, this part of emotional doesn't count anymore, I think they underestimate the power of the thrill of driving. So we believe strongly that it will be also important in the future. Now, these are our strengths, and now we are coming to areas which definitely is more new to our business, where, as I said at the beginning, we had a steep learning curve over the last several years. We did a recent study around the world asking consumers, car enthusiasts, about the question of how important is it to have your digital life also in your cars. And 73% of everyone we asked said, I would change my brand immediately if I would have another car brand who would allow me to bring my digital life into my car. This is pretty amazing because in the automotive industry, to get people changing their brands is something quite challenging. but 73% would change if the offer of the digital life is better than in a comparable car. So that's quite something, and this changed over the last 4 or 5 years dramatically. So what it means is that, and we come now to the next stage here, the car is becoming smarter. Digital services are being part of our daily life, and what we are trying to build here, what we started to build here, is really that this car becomes more like a companion on your daily mobility needs than it ever was in the past. I think we were the first car company who also separated completely now the hardware development from the IT development, because we knew that we need to get much more speed into the IT development, and we had to separate it from the car. So there are two different worlds which basically come together when it comes to usage. We also, very early in the game, found out that how important it will be to connect the cars to the internet. And we have already 10 million cars around the world connected. And every single car who leaves our production lines are already connected with the internet. So this enables us to be now in a situation where we can start to scale quite quickly. And when other people, a lot of them are still talking about the importance of connectivity, we already are at a point where we are scaling now with quite big, starting from 10 million, which we have already out there. Another important point which we basically started 2 years ago is building what we call an open mobility cloud. And this allows our customers to bring in third-party services to the cars and use them as they are normally used when they're at home. This is why we are also able to now integrate services from Apple, Google, here, Microsoft, Amazon. And the latest examples is that we just integrated Alexa from Amazon and Google Home into our cars. So you can now order everything what you can order with Alexa at your home. You can do it also now within our cars. The next step coming out of this would be moving basically towards car as a service. And also here we started quite early to realize that this is another important trend around the world, especially when it comes to urban mobility, that the usage becomes more and more important compared to the ownership. And we started with our car sharing drive now and reach now around the world. We have now over 1 million members using our car sharing services. And we also started, you can see it here on the picture, to integrate more and more our electric i3 into these fleets. This also helps, of course, when it comes about emissions within downtown areas. And I can tell you that 200,000 people took their first e-drive experience were made in our Drive Now, Reach Now cars. So the first time they experienced e-drive was in our cars. Now, let's jump now into a little bit more in the future, but what we think is being a basic technology which will really revolutionize the mobility as we know it today. And this is autonomous driving. I think that the autonomous driving technology will lead to a mobility which I come to this point at the end of my presentation, will transform completely as we know mobility today. We have worked now since several years on this technology. We are cooperating here with Intel and with Mobileye, two very important companies in their respective areas. And we are going to be ready to launch this technology in 2021. And I can also tell you, I just personally drove our latest prototype, or let's say better, I have been driven in our prototype last week, and it's amazing what these cars can do already. And I also realized by sitting there and seeing a robot doing the work that probably we all have to start to have a bigger discussion about what does this technology mean for us as human beings. Because it's not so easy to give to a robot the responsibility of your personal life. So I think not just technology-wise, we also need a discussion about what does it actually mean. How do we overcome maybe the fear of people entering in a robot? And I think here comes again the topic I mentioned before, that safety and trust in the technology is becoming an increasingly important point to really implement autonomous driving. I can assure you that when we bring this in 2021, first of all, it will be, of course, the safest technology you can imagine, and it will also come in an extremely nice designed package. Because after all, you know, we might not be the world champion in announcing things, but we are the ones who are delivering in it, and you can count on it that this will come 2021. This technology, however, will not only change the way how we look at cars, it will also dramatically change how we are going to build interiors. We believe that this will become an extending part of our house. You can basically style it in a way that really fits to your personal needs and to your personal taste. So here we also believe it will be really a revolution. Now, when you take these two trends, autonomous driving, together, that more and more people are okay with just sharing a car or having mobility on demand, we think that this is a huge opportunity for us as a premium manufacturer. Imagine that you could have now a 7 Series by the minute. We think that this will be a much better business case for us than leasing a 7 Series. This is why we think this has a huge potential for our company. Now, if we move further ahead and say, okay, now we are entering in the era of autonomous driving, and you come to a point where you leave your car at a certain way where you want to get off, and what comes now? The next question is, okay, where does this autonomous car park now? Where does it go to maybe charge its batteries? Here also, we started some years ago to develop Charge Now and Park Now to be ready for this autonomous era. We, meanwhile, on the Charge Now side, we have the biggest charging system in the world. We have about 130,000 charging stations around the world, which you can use with one card only. It's like a roaming system. On the park side, together with our partner Mobile Park, we have already this service in 645 cities around the world, with round about 16 million customers using this parking service. And I think the interesting part about the parking is not only that this will be extremely important for the world when it comes to autonomous driving, but it's already important today. You know, we have to know that 30% of the traffic in most big cities around the world is searching for a parking space. Now, we have already today the tools. We don't have to wait into development. We have today the tools already to get rid of this pain point parking immediately, and this would reduce already the traffic by a third. We are working with a lot of cities around the world specifically on this topic to get the parking side quicker to the market than we currently are seeing. Now, in a nutshell, this is basically the ecosystem we are currently building. So if you want to look for a car, it doesn't matter if you want to drive to a grocery shopping or if you want to go to a mountain, you can have it by Reach Now and Drive Now. If you are looking for a parking spot, you go by Park Now, and if you want to charge, or if you need to charge your car, you can have it by Charge Now. We also started a company which is called Digital Energy Solutions, which basically will manage your energy at your homes, at your companies, in a way where you can integrate later on electric cars and the usage of the batteries to maybe store power whenever you need it. So this brings me to the point where if we move further ahead, that mobility becomes a service. It doesn't matter if you drive from Pasadena to San Diego or from Rome to Sydney. With one click of a button, the whole mobility chain will be organized to your personal wishes and to your personal needs. But we don't stop here on the mobility as a service. We also look quite holistically at cities and what will it do when we have fully autonomous driving around the world. And I can tell you right now that we believe that this will be a revolution when it comes to being mobile within big cities. We will not need any more traffic lights, no signs, no parking spaces alongside streets. We can build them back into playgrounds. We will not need parking garages anymore. We can use this for residential areas. So this will transform the city dramatically, and the quality of life in cities will be so much better that we almost cannot imagine this today. It's basically zero emission, zero accident, no noises, which we sometimes forget when we discuss about it. Noise is a big factor in cities. So this will be really a dream world, and it's not utopia. This will happen, and we are working already on the different puzzles to really come to this holistic way. So I hope in this quick flying through everything we are doing, I could show you a little bit. I gave you a glimpse on the things we are currently working on, so that we believe we are going to be a big part of shaping the future of mobility in the next several years. And we just celebrated last year our 100 years anniversary, and instead of looking backwards, we basically looked forward and called our celebration the next 100 years. And in the next 100 years, we built 4 models which we think this is how the hardware will look in the next several years. So I personally, I think that I can at least assure you from my point of view that we are really determined to be successful in this transformation process. B, we have the right people, we have the know-how to do it. And C, we also have the financial power to invest in all these new technologies which are needed. This is why I'm totally convinced that in the AutoMobility 2030, somebody from BMW will be standing here. Thank you.